Hey YouTube, let's talk about some things to be aware of when you're out in the woods. First off, I like to be aware of where I step. If you're walking, there's a lot of times there's hazards in the woods that can cause you to trip and fall. There could be animals that could pose a hazard to you. So watch for limbs or trees down. Sometimes it's not hard to not see them, but sometimes you may be looking somewhere and you're walking and you can trip over things. Also, there's roots. Sometimes there's roots that come out and sometimes it's hard to see. It could be in a shadow. You might have a rock that's coming out. Here's bone right here. So there's a lot of things that can trip you up and cause a hazard. Now, at the time of filming, it's the beginning of winter. And the snakes have, for the most part, gone underground. But throughout the rest of the year, you have to be mindful, at least in my area, of snakes. And so where you put your feet is a big deal. Just as you would want to be aware of where you put your feet, you also want to be aware of what's above your head. This is a widowmaker. It's in the middle of the screen. There's a broken off branch. It's of a considerable size. It's up at a pretty high elevation, and if this was to fall on you, it could kill you. Always be aware of these when you're walking or hiking and when you're setting up camp. Another thing to be aware of is how hot or how cold you are. If you're cold, add another layer. Or make a campfire and warm up. But if you're too hot, you might start sweating. And sweat is a bad thing when you're out in the woods. Sweat can actually release a lot of body heat through evaporation. And this can actually get you very close to hypothermia, if not get you into hypothermia. And it can happen a lot faster than you may think. So regulate your body temperature when you're out in the woods. Do you know what direction help is? Do you know where the nearest shelter? Do you know where north, east, and west is? One simple way is just to bring a compass with you and a map, but it's good before you even go into the woods to have a very good general idea of where you are in relationship to other things. So throughout your trip, if you're hiking, what I do is about every 5 or so minutes, I just reaffirm that I'm going in a certain direction. It could be northeast, it could be northwest, wherever it is. But it's really good to know that and just to keep up with that. When you're walking about, it's also a good practice to keep an eye on the various sources of tinder available in case you need to make a fire. This is an eastern red cedar, and as you can see, there's bark that hangs from it that, in this case, it is dry, that I could easily source. I can take it in my hands and shred it to increase the surface area so that it lights even faster. And this would be a great source of tinder. But there's tinder everywhere in the woods. As you can see down, if the leaves are dry, that could be used as well. There's all different types of bark with different trees in this area. You could also make feather sticks with all these dried limbs and sticks and so forth that are on the ground as well.